Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Alex Woburn entitled Boring Stories. And if we switch over to here we saw the track on the screen, and basically this is the third track from Alex that I've reviewed. We've had Clown, and then we had Magic Is This, and now we have Boring Stories. So we're going to listen through it from start till finish and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go.
Raindrops on windows made beats to this song. When I first saw you, I thought, damn, he's hot. I had been hurt before, you wanted more. I said, leave your clothes on the floor. You told me, boy.
Okay, nice transition. Okay, it's good. It's pretty straightforward. We're cutting to the chase there. It's personable and intimate. And I think that a lot of people can probably relate to that person that you're with and they just talk about something that you're not necessarily interested in and you don't realize how much you missed it until they're gone. Okay, it's nice. Sorry to interrupt in the middle of the chorus. When we initially entered this track, there was a fair bit of tension with some of the uncertainty in that verse. I don't necessarily mean with the lyrics. I mean with the motif, like the progressions we had there, the fuzziness of it. There was a sense of trepidation as if we were acknowledging that things may have not necessarily been ideal with the way that we were acting or the way that we intermingled with each other. I think that it's like we are going through our feelings about the person that we miss, but then in the chorus we show gratitude for their boring stories and the fact that we had them, even if we don't necessarily have them anymore. I'll talk about it more in the conclusion. Okay, cool. I see what we're doing here. Nice, Cool, I like it. I wasn't initially we'll talk about the conclusion. And welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Alex Woburn entitled Boring Stories. Now, we're gonna go through things in the usual way I like to do the conclusion. Before I go any further though, this review is gonna be largely positive. I have a lot of good stuff to say about it. It's just, there were moments I want to sort of talk about. Not hugely critically damning parts, but just stuff I want to mention. That is, I think, is going to be a net positive. But look, the story that we have here, I actually quite like it. I like that initially we were talking about how we had this person and we kind of initially just wanted them for the physical intimacy, like we wanted to do stuff sexually with them. And we were like, oh, I don't really enjoy the conversation. I just want to kind of get busy. And then as we went on, I think we realized, like throughout the story, and this is the sort of the development of the tale, which I enjoy. I like when songs have lyrics that tell a story and it grows and you're actually taken on a journey, right? It's really positive. It's a fundamental, but you'd be surprised how often people may muck that up. And we didn't have that here. As we went further along, we were like, yeah, no, I get that maybe I still want you. But also I understand that those books you've read, all that politics stuff, it's simply that that's something you're interested in. And I want you and that, but then I also, I want everything. So I think we got to the end of the story and it wasn't so much that we missed the person because we missed having them with us, like intimately. It's more like we appreciate who they were and we just want them with everything, even the stuff we might not necessarily be as interested in personally. It's just knowing they're interested in it. We want that back. And I think that's a good turn, because initially I was like, is this just because of, the attraction there, the physical attraction? But no, it's just because the experience shows character development. And I think that's great. I think that is something that's really important to talk about in music. And it's important to do it in a way where it seems authentic. And I think that we did get that with Alex. With the previous tracks like Clown and Magic Is This, we've gotten that. It's on brand in the sense that not like we're trying to sell a shampoo or something. What I mean is that it's like Alex, with the music that he makes, does sound genuine and tells stories that are from his personal experiences as I understand it. And because of that, they can make it, they're not, how do I describe it? You're not feeling the need to front. You're just telling people how it is. And you're admitting that you might have been at fault about something. And that can be a very difficult thing for people to open up about, to admit fault, to accept that they might not have been the one in the right, and to admit that someone else was. I just want to say that I really appreciate the fact that we are making music where we show that, because people will relate more to you if you don't act like you're good at everything. If you labor the point, if it's self-deprecating, it can be a little bit off-putting. But if you show that you're not perfect, people will be more able to relate to you when they listen to your story. So I think that Alex's performance seemed authentic. The way it was sung was great. We had really interesting vocal melodies here. We didn't necessarily have that many harmonies there. I think I was 50-50 on whether those were pads or like choir parts on the backing, but it was basically Alex themselves, the solo focus, telling their tale the entire time. I thought it was really good. I thought it was well sung, good vocal, head and chest voice, and we had a nice smoothness to the performance as well that segged well and niched well with the rest of the elements within the mix. We understand the fundamentals of creating like hook lines and stuff like that are catchy and invigorating, but I like how we messed around with the tension that we had in those verse parts, because we're going to get to that. Like, first of all, the track with like it fit well within the 2 to 4 minutes sweet spot at like 2 minutes 40. We had verse chorus sections with like a slight alteration to like the outro chorus, like where we had like a quieter bit where we had different lyrics, then we kind of iterate on that further for the end part. And I think that was a great use of time. We didn't really have that many instrumental breaks there. A lot of the focus was on the vocals, but that's fine because it is a shorter form track, and you didn't necessarily need to have any dedicated solo sections or anything like that in order for people to be interested in it. It's also what the other few songs from Alex have been like, so it's fine. We had synths, we had bass, we had drums, we had some other sort of nice plucky elements there. So it's not like it was a sort of a barren arrangement. We had instrumental layers in there, but it's just, the focal point was Alex in this, and that's fine because the story developed. If it was just the same thing repeated over and over, wouldn't have worked as well, but we had movement there. So if we go through the instruments individually, I think that the drums were great. We had a relative minimalism there. They were pocketing on the different grooves, but they were enough to keep the beat moving forward. They were palatable. They were present enough that you could kind of follow along to it and nod your head, but they didn't overpower the mix. And they had a nice sense of unison with what was going on with those bass lines that we had there. A nice funky beat with some 8th notes and maybe even some 16th note occurrences there. And I think that if it had just been quarters on the accents the whole entire time, it wouldn't have been as interesting. That said, it was nice to have the bass and the guitar bass and the drums kind of go out for that final chorus section there. We simply had sort of strings or synth parts there, or maybe like, yeah, so I just double checked and there were guitars in that interlude section, that final chorus before the big finish, and I think that was important. Having the arpeggiated guitar parts is just a nice tonal timbre change there to what we've had previously, and even in a shorter form track, it can be good to switch it up just to kind of catch the audience's attention. I think that they were actually backing vocals in that part, which is good. Choir parts on the side, which nice to form sort of like nice sort of pad-like effect. Yeah, the bass lines were compelling, the drums had a nice groove to them. The guitar parts with the arpeggios there where they came in were charming and meshed nicely with what was going on with the key or synth parts we had earlier. The tones overall were nice and sparkly and charming and optimistic. We didn't have any sort of like, actually I should take that back. We had the verse parts. And we didn't have like necessarily traditional minor or major triads in that verse part. There was a bit of tension and uncertainty within those as if we was trying to figure stuff out. And I tried to talk about this earlier, but I don't think I was necessarily particularly straightforward with it. What I liked about the verse as opposed to like the chorus, or, you know, like the parts, the A-B kind of thing going on, again, is that the verse parts showcase the uncertainty about the situation and the regret that we had. And the chorus was like the positivity of acknowledging that we might have made a mistake and the fact that we want that person back, and we were grateful for realizing that we wanted that person back. So I like those changes with the harmonies, the overall feel, the mood and vibe of them. I think that was great. That was great contrast there. And it makes the song more interesting because you're going between those two, and it connects more nicely with the lyrics as well. The motif overall outside of that was poppy, it was catchy, but there was a maturity with, the contrast between the various sections there that I enjoy, and it wasn't done in a way where it seemed kind of forced. It just, the transfers were nice and smooth, the vocals going between various bits there to kind of seg into the next part. And in the end, the song, the way the instruments played and performed, gave me a sense of optimism that things were going to improve in the future, and that even if we didn't necessarily get back together, we were grateful for the fact that we realized what we had, as opposed to, just constantly regretting the fact that we didn't have it. With a general understanding of the fact that there is a nice interconnection between the various elements of this track, I think finally we just have the studio recording, mixing and mastering, where I think that the vocals and everything else in the mix were nicely niched together. The leveling in general was good. Things were nicely filled and EQ'd. The vocals had an interesting sound to them, and I liked how there was a legato between the various notes. There was a nice sense of unison with how they kind of, not just unison as in like rhythmically or anything like that, but how they kind of segged or flew into the next notes of the harmony or whatever. The drums and bass as well were placed in a way where like they were easy to hear, had a sense of presence to them, and didn't interfere with any of the mid-upper ranges too much. Any sort of synth or guitar stuff was nicely panned in a way where it filled in the mid-range and sides of the stereo field there with the pads as well, or the backing vocals kind of going into that part as well. And it was charming. It was nice and full sounding. The leveling in general was good, as I think I mentioned earlier. There was dynamic range though. When things came down for that second to last chorus, where things got a bit quieter with the guitars, it was noticeably quieter there, and that change there is great because it allows us to have like a break there. If things are the same loudness all the time, it becomes very easy to kind of tune out without even, like, you might love the song, but it just becomes a little bit overwhelming, But that said, the track was still nice and loud without pumping, so the bus compression and limiting were handled well. I mean, all in all, this track is great. It's a solid, it's a really good track. The previous few tracks I've listened to from Alex Woburn have been really positive, and we've shown an understanding of the fundamentals of like music theory and composition, and the performance is a bit tight. But I think that this one's probably my favorite so far. So, thanks for watching my review of this track from Alex Woburn titled Boring Stories, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love via their various social medias and Spotify page, and stay cool, stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they help more than ever thought of crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands Out.